Hey everybody, it's me, Lindsay, here from Consciously Coping, and today is Tuesday, January the 26th, and we are back with season 2 of Transparency Tuesday. So today I wanted to talk a lot about therapy. That's what I planned on talking about. I wanted to talk about like how therapy has really changed my life and the trajectory of my life and how much I really benefited from it, and how I really have healed and kind of worked through some things. But today, I really want to talk about motherhood. And so this has been something that has been on my mind for, I would say, maybe the past like 2 or 3 months, more so in January, with school being virtual. And being at home and trying to be a mom and a provider, and I'm a student and a teacher and a doctor and everything, to my son. So I really wanted to just sit down and have an open and honest conversation about motherhood, especially when you are managing a mental health disorder, and like what that can look like when you really don't have a support system, or you live in a society where moms are, overworked, under supported, and are expected to be great at all times. So sit down, you can grab a journal, grab some tea, or you can just write some questions or think of something in your head, and we'll get started with Transparency Tuesday. So, like I said, today we're going to talk about motherhood, and I'm going to talk about it from my perspective. I'm going to talk about how motherhood has really affected me, and how like I view motherhood, and parenting as a mom. And so let's just get started. So to me, mothers, to me aren't just how do I want to say it, aren't bogged down to just having female reproductive systems, so having a uterus. Um, Anybody can mother. I think of mothers as nurturers, and not in the sense of overextenders. I think of being a mother as being someone who is in the moment at all times, who can be in the moment, who can show up as them as their whole selves, and just kind of navigate the changes that come with parenting, come with your child, changing from ages and changing from day to day, having different experiences, but just really pretty much overall just showing up and just being honest and true to yourself, right? And what, how what works best for you, because every situation is different for every mom. And so just because something works well for me does not mean it works well for my next door neighbor, and so forth and so on. So that's how I view motherhood. Um, so someone, so I, so let me just scale back. So I was raised by a group of women: my great grandmother, my grandmother, and my mom. When I was 1, I moved in with my great grandmother, who raised me until I was 2. And then she said she couldn't do it. It was just too much. And my grandmother was like, okay, that's fine. She was already helping anyway. She was like, no, that's perfectly fine. It's okay. She's a little older. Now we can put her in, in daycare and stuff. So at the age of 2, my grandmother, I moved in with my grandmother, but my great grandmother would keep me during the daytime. So when I started pre-K, I was, being shuttled there by my great grandma, but I lived with my grandmother and my grandfather. And my grandmother was really a good nurturer. She was always like in the moment. And that's one thing I always remember about her. I do remember about her is her real, to me, overworking herself. But she also took breaks. Like, she was a Capricorn, but she was a person who really worked hard. So I don't want to say overworked. She was a person who really valued like strong work ethic. She really worked hard. She really believed in doing a good job and being there and being present. She was that type of person. If she was talking to you, she was looking you in your eyes. If she was in a meeting, she was taking notes. She was fully engaged. My grandmother was always that type of person that was fully invested in the moment. She definitely lived in the moment. Sorry, just getting teary-eyed already. But she was really one of those people who were fully engaged in, whatever, the situation, was at hand. And so she was just, in that way, she was just so amazing. But thinking about a lot of things, like her day was so filled with so much, like she would wake up and cook breakfast and, she would get ready and, she, would have to engage with my grandfather and then engage with me and make sure I was ready and, different things like that. And then take me to school. Granted, a big chunk of my life, she was a teacher, so I went to school with her. But she, I went with her. It was a lot. She did a lot in a day. And she was like taking care of her auntie and her uncle, and she was, helping her mom, which is my great grandma, and just she had her hands in a lot of different things. She was in multiple organizations. She was a part of many organizations in church or many extracurricular organizations outside of the household in different communities. And so she did a lot in a day. And so as I got older, my mom, who, had me at a younger age, she was 21, 22. And so once she decided to go back to school and she graduated and stuff, she only had like a year left. So I moved in with her. Well, that was a big transition. She was, it was a single parent household. You know, I don't want to sound like I'm bashing my mom, but, like it was a single family household. She had one income. She wasn't making that much. My mom just was not the best person with money. I think personally, I believe she was under a lot of stress. I think the person she wanted to be, the person who she saw herself was, I think she held a lot of guilt in, like her and my father not being together. I think it was a culmination of a lot of things. And then just knowing the history of her and her mom and their relationship is just, so it makes sense. Anywho, so the dynamic in the household definitely changed, and her way of mothering was totally different. Sometimes she was in the moment, and sometimes she was very overwhelmed, exhausted, frustrated, a lot of other things going on that she just couldn't be present. And so a lot of my childhood with my mom was arguments and fussing and spankings and, getting cussed at and different things like that, coupled with, let me make this right. Let me do something because now I feel bad because I had an outburst at my child and let's make this better. But overall, my mom provided. I had a house, she had a car, we had food. So she was able to provide those, typical things that we think of. When I think of motherhood, I think of two different things. Like for me, it's like, okay, being present, being in the moment, having grace, like having patience, being able to be like an educator, being able to teach, and then being like the enforcer and being, just the provider and being the enforcer and just making sure things that need to get done. And so I think, for me, it was just a interesting like dynamic and just different changes with that. But as I have become a mom, and so I manage 3 mental health disorders: bipolar disorder type 2, generalized anxiety disorder, as well as post-traumatic stress disorder. Whoa, what am I talking about? Post-traumatic stress disorder. And so with the bipolar disorder type 2, I experienced a lot of depressive episodes. So I actually experienced chronic depressive episodes. Typically for me, I'm in a low mood every day. I really don't, I'm never really on the higher end. So I have bouts of hypomania. I've only had maybe like 3 hypomanic, 4 maybe full-blown hypomania episodes, maybe 3. But elevated moods at times. I've been in and out, kind of had mixed moods. So a lot of, especially when my son was first born, I experienced a lot. I was like consumed with a lot of depressive episodes. I really didn't have a lot of tools to like navigate it. I didn't really know what it was. I was misdiagnosed with dysthymia. It was a lot. So it was a lot going on, right? So a lot of my behaviors when I first had my son, very erratic, very, like I said, very low mood. And I knew the type of mom I wanted to be, but I did not know how to ask for the support that I needed. And I think that's really important because sometimes you don't know the help that you need. And so I didn't know that I needed mental health help. Like, I didn't know I needed to go to a therapist. I didn't know that I needed to be on medication. I didn't know that, I had, PTSD from, just past traumatic experiences. I didn't know that that's a different type of therapy. I didn't know that, there were different tools that I could do for anxiety. I didn't know, the felt, saw, touched, smelled. I didn't know about grounding techniques. But those are things that I also did not know I needed because I didn't even know what they were. And so when you don't have that like consumption of education when it comes to mental health, you don't know what you need. So I can't ask for something that I have never heard of and that I don't even know I need, which is why it's important to do Transparency Tuesday and have other advocates talk, because this allows us to relate to other people. Other people can see themselves with inside of, what we're saying. But back to the point. So spent a lot of my son's early childhood. He's only 11, so I spent a lot of his early childhood up until about 4 years ago, really trapped inside of cycles of really depressive lows. A lot of ideation, a lot of self-harm, a lot of just a lot of anger, a lot of frustration, irritation, constantly irritated, constantly tired, physically exhausted, drained. And I'm also an overachiever. So a part of me really wants to like be the best mom, right? And like, like be the mom that does crafts and like be the soccer mom and have him in sports and take him to STEM events and take him to concerts and like a big part of me is like, ooh, that's like the excellence and combination of a great mom. But the physical and mental aspect of me was like, but I can't do that because I am exhausted, because I don't have the physical energy. I don't have I don't have it in me to even do it, and so that was really difficult. That was really a difficult thing to kind of experience. And so it was a lot. And at the time, like, I was holding on to a lot of guilt surrounding, like, as I started to learn about mental health, right, as I started to become an advocate, I started to learn more techniques and more tools and resources. And that's when the guilt flooded me. Because then it was like, oh my gosh, like, I could have been flourishing and I could have been getting help and I could have been a better person to my son. I could have been showing up, but I wasn't. And this is why. And now I'm a bad person, right? So I took on like a lot of shame and a lot of guilt. So to say all of that, to wrap it back around to the topic of motherhood, like, now I'm in a place where I feel very alone. I've always felt alone though because of my mental health disorder. But now that I'm a mom, and a lot of my close friends, like, and when I say close, my close friends, I mean people I talk to on a consistent basis. They don't have children. So my friends that I talk to like once a week, once every 2 weeks, even once a month, they don't have children. And so they don't, like, we can't relate on that type of level. It's a different level of exhaustion that I experience. It's a different level of expectation that I experience. There's a different level of financial resistance that I experience. There's a different level of mental anguish that I experience with being a mom. And then, like I said, couple on top of that, I'm also someone who has a mental health disorder. So not only I don't believe there's a such thing as balance, but not only am I navigating motherhood, right? I'm providing a care to another human. I am also having to navigate the mental health system and my mental health disorders all at the same time. And so I'm having to like be present, show up for myself and somebody else all at the same time. And I'm doing it like starting from not being able to do it at all to like here I am today. And so it is really difficult, and it is really challenging, and it's really lonely. There's a difference between alone and lonely. I am very alone. When it comes to motherhood, I feel like this level of isolation that is so unexplainable. Even around other mothers, unless we have when I say very similar, like almost identical situation, it is difficult to have to feel that level of support and understanding. Um, and so as an African American mom who I know we pride ourselves on being providers, like that is key for like African American Black women. Like for us, the pinnacle of mothering is like I am able to provide proficiently. I am able to do it with like flawlessly. Like we got food all the time. You get clothes you want. You can go anywhere you want. You can be in any activity you want to. We can go out to eat if we want. We can cook at home. We can have cable. We can like for us, like that is like the pinnacle. But also being a protector, because we're Black, of course we experience racism on so many levels. Excuse me. And for us it's also like a level of protection. So we want to be providers and we want to be protectors. So we're like the bear moms, like we're like bears that come out the cave, and we're like overly protect them, and we're like making sure we're watching out for our children like on a whole nother level, because not only are we watching our children from within our own community, we're also protecting our children from external communities, right? Some things that we just cannot fully control. And so like it's a lot. And that's a lot on a person. And that, like I said, that can be a very, very lonely experience. And that's where I am now. Like I feel very alone. I feel very isolated. I feel like I can't relate to anybody. I feel like because I don't really have a lot of conversations with people in my age range. So you guys know I'm back in school, so everybody's like 18. Well, now I'm third year, so everybody's like 21, 20 years old. I can't really relate to them. Then like the people who are my age, like they don't have children, and the ones who do have children, we are all overly consumed with being great mothers that we don't even spend time together. And so it's a lot. I don't take a lot of breaks. I don't really do anything other than study. Um, and go to school. And I work on campus. And so I don't have like, it's like school, home, school, home, school, home, school, home, school, home, school, home, school. And so I really don't have like an opportunity to be by myself. And so even when I create like, so I've been trying to do this thing like creating space for myself in my house. So like I try to meditate, and I'm trying to like take baths like once a week, like hot baths, just relax, just sit down. I try to like play music. I'm trying to wake up early and like get an hour to myself where it's just me, and I can like sit with myself, relax with myself, drink hot tea, write, read, whatever it is, just to get some sense of like, holy crap, I got some time with myself. But I would be lying to say that I don't want to have interaction with other people. And I think that's what alone is. It's like the connection with others that I'm missing. And that's what I'm missing the connection with others. And so it makes it difficult now we're in the middle of a dang on pandemic. So that's like even another level. But yeah, I mean, even before the pandemic, like I felt alone, but of course, even more now, like I really feel alone. It's like a double whammy. And so yeah, like it's a very, 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 very lonely feeling. And it's definitely a lonely feeling when you are someone who manages a mental health disorder. Because people like when you manage a mental health disorder and you're a mom, you are constantly looked at as a bad mom. Like, the expectation is, no matter how much therapy you go to, no matter how much medication, that you're always going to be erratic, that you are always going to be aggressive, that you're always going to be abusive, that you're always going to be verbally, emotionally abusive, that you are always, you're so unpredictable. Your behavior is always like, there's this opportunity for unpredictable behavior, and that you are always going to be a bad mom. Like, there's nothing that you are going to do that is going to set you apart and that's going to make you a really effective, nurturing mother. And I think, like, a lot of that weighs down on me, especially like now. So I have been experiencing more like a lower mood. I know I'm like in a depressive, like entering into the zone of like a full-blown depressive episode. I have a psychiatrist appointment on, it's supposed to be tomorrow, but it's Thursday. Had to push it back. So it'll be Thursday. So I will be getting back on medication, and of course the depressive mood will kind of dissipate. So it'll kind of not go away, but it'll get better. I'll be able to more so manage. But I think like that messes with me a lot, is that the expectation of who I am from other people. And I know it shouldn't matter, but I think that's why I don't get a lot of support. It's because the choices I make and how I behave, and like, it's like, oh, there's no hope for her, we might as well not help her. Part of that is I don't really ask for help, and that is really important. And I should know how to ask for help, but that's something that's difficult as people, especially in the Western society, but in the Black community, it's very difficult for us to ask for help because we're looked at as less than, and we're looked at as, you're not a good mom, why are you asking me for help? You should be able to do this on your own. So I think it's like a culmination. Like, nothing is ever like one layer, right? Everything is always multi-layered. And so I think that's kind of where I am. And I think I'm crying because like that, I think that's just like a level of hurt that I'm still working through. It like triggers something in me, like, why am I still feeling this way? Why do I still feel like, and I know I'm not my mental health disorder, right? Like, I know, like, I'm not my mental health disorder. That's not who I am. Who I am is Lindsay. And who I am is, a list of other things. But just a really deep part of me feels like all of this work that I'm doing and healing and medication and different things like that, like, at the end of the day, I'm still not, like, people think I'm still not deserving of support. And I think that is so important and imperative. And when I think about my childhood and like how many people really helped my mom, my grandfather, her dad and mom, my grandma, my dad's mom and dad, and my great grandma. I had cousins whose houses I would go to, and they would pick me up from school, and godparents and family friends. I even used to stay at neighbor's house if my grandma wanted to go out somewhere and nobody else can do. Like, there were so many places for me to go, so much support that they had to like get a break and get a moment to themselves, and get, like, my mom had so much financial support, you know what I'm saying? So much, just, she could take a break if she needed to. And then, of course, we were latchkey kids, so a lot of times I was just home by myself. But, you know what I'm saying? Like, there are so many avenues back, when I grew up, and like, I don't have a lot of avenues for my son, for me. And I think because I'm really vocal too about my mental health disorder, like, that really impacts how people show up for me. People don't know how. I think a lot of people don't know how to support me. And I think they think, like, between some people who think I don't deserve it, and then there's some people who, like, I just don't know how to show up for you. but like that does a disservice to a lot of people. So being that I have cried and I didn't want to, didn't expect to, yeah, so that's kind of how I feel. Like I said, right now, just about being a mom and being a mother, really parenting, and like I said, there's a type of parent I want to be, and I feel like I don't have the level of support that I need to do that. And I'm doing a lot. Like, I'm trying to be everything to a human being, and it's like, you can't. It's like a 5,000 piece puzzle, and I'm trying to put it together by myself. When if I had just 5 more people, that's 1,000 pieces we got apart. So, you know, anywho, so that will wrap it up for today's Transparency Tuesday. Thank you all for watching. Please leave some comments in below if you guys know some resources for Black mothers, whether that be mothers who are pregnant, mothers who have already had children, mothers who have lost children, any resources for Black mothers. If you have a comment about mothering or parenting, something that has helped you, something that has worked for you, leave that comment in the box below. I'm so glad that you guys are watching today and showed up to watch this video. Transparency Tuesday will continue, hopefully. Keep my fingers crossed, but Transparency Tuesday will continue, and I will have a video uploaded next week. Thank you guys for tuning in, and just remember, I am just a girl consciously coping. Bye.